NFL Live on the air. Here's our timeline. Adam Schefter reporting former Titans receiver Rashard Matthews is on the move. He's headed to the Jets. And the Jets not the only New York team making a move. The Giants have traded former first-round pick Eli Apple to the New Orleans Saints. This is in exchange for a fourth-round pick next year and a seventh in 2020. We are still a week away from the trade deadline, 4 o'clock Eastern next Tuesday. And we've seen a lot of moves in the past few days. Happy to be here with you. Wendy Nix, Dan Graziano, Tim Hasselbeck, and Coach John Fox. We'll start right here. The decision, Dan, to move Eli Apple to New Orleans. Can you tell us some context, if you will?
Second first-round pick from 2015 to be dealt in 2 days. So interesting. You have turnover in leadership there with the Giants. You have Dave Gettleman coming in as GM, replacing longtime GM Jerry Reese, and really moving on from a lot of the guys that Reese had brought in, including now Eli Apple. This is a player a lot of people were surprised he was back with the Giants at all this year. Had some real issues last year with the outgoing coaching staff. Landon Collins, his teammate, went on the radio and called him a locker room cancer, like on the record, out loud on the radio. So this was a guy that had some serious issues with the team prior to this year. Everything I had been told was that those had been resolved and he was in good shape. 23-year-old guy had started playing better, but they decided to move on from him because they're moving forward.
He had met with the new leadership, with Dan Gettleman and Pat Shermer at the start of the season and was assured a clean slate. But there could be many reasons, Tim, that factored into this choice.
Listen, sometimes things get repaired in a locker room, but, it's never quite the same or the way that you would want it to be. And I think, in terms of that, look, I think the Giants, when you look at where they are this season, and then you think about where the Saints are aspiring to go this season, I actually think it ends up making a lot of sense. And then if you think about the compensation, you're talking about a fourth and a seventh in future drafts for a guy that's played a lot of football and certainly had some moments, and he's had some, some issues, as Dan alluded, in terms of dealing with the coaching staff and dealing with, guys in his team. But we know the Saints have a good pass rush. We know that they've got a good corner opposite Eli Apple. And they've got a good group of linebackers. I think they're trying to bolster up the secondary a little bit to have a legitimate shot at making a run.
No doubt. I mean, you heard even some grumblings or possibilities about even Patrick Peterson. They're looking for a guy to line up opposite Marshawn Lattimore, who's a Pro Bowl rookie, young corner. Eli's young. He's got length. He's got, deep speed. Maybe, it'll look better for him in New Orleans.
Well, the Giants released Eric Flowers. He was the 9th overall pick in 2015. That was October 9th. Now they trade Eli Apple, the 10th pick in 2016. So if you're doing the math, that's 2 recent top 10 picks for the Giants gone in a span of 2 weeks. And they certainly aren't the only team. Speaking of trades, it was the Cowboys who made a headline-grabbing move yesterday. They opted to get Dak Prescott some help, trading for wide receiver Amari Cooper. This in exchange for a first-round pick in the upcoming draft. Oakland, by the way, will now have 3 first-round picks in 2019 after also getting the Bears pick in last month's Khalil Mack trade. So here's why Dallas did this. The 24-year-old has averaged 3.8 yards of separation on targets this season, and according to Next Gen Stats, it's the 4th best among wideouts with at least 25 targets. And Dak has struggled to get separation out of his receivers since the start of last year. His target's getting just 2.9 yards of separation at that time. That's the shortest mark for any quarterback with at least 250 attempts. And, Coach, I'll start with you. Let's look first at Amari Cooper's impact on this Dallas offense.
I think, they've been looking for receivers all season long. And I think the acquisition of Amari Cooper is going to help them. They have to evaluate where Dak Prescott is. And how better to do that than make sure you have some guys around him that help that evaluation. Here you can see he's really quick. He's fluid in and out of breaks. He's got good explosion. He's got good catch radius. He was a Pro Bowl receiver 2 years ago. So he's done it. He's made that transition from college football to pro football and pro coverages. He can get off the press. He does have excellent quickness. Good nod here on Roby. All right. But excellent move out of the break there. And again, he's a guy that's 24. So he's got a lot of good football ahead of him, and he's got a lot of ability. I think he helps the Cowboys.
I think the issue just ends up being, Wendy, is we're doing the good and the bad. And what Coach said is exactly right. 24 years old, had 2 seasons where he had over 1,000 yards receiving. Had 7 touchdowns last year on what was a down year. he definitely has been plagued by some drops. Now, I do think that there are coaches believe that you can coach guys out of drops, somebody that has good hands, which I certainly believe that he does in terms of it being more of a concentration thing. But I don't think there's any question that he is an improvement at the position for the Dallas Cowboys. And then when you think of the skill set of the other guys that they have, Michael Gallup and his speed, Cole Beasley and his working inside. Now, all of a sudden, you add somebody with kind of a different group of skills, a different skill set, and that really can run the entire route tree in Amari Cooper. And I think now, to your point, Coach, you have the opportunity to better evaluate Dak Prescott and figure out, how invested in him can you be going forward.
That's another layer because they have a decision to make at the end of this season, Dan, and they need to know, I would think. In fact, I would think it's imperative if Dak Prescott is the future quarterback of this team.
They do. I mean, they say they still believe in him. And look, talking to people in that organization last night and today, I mean, they felt like Amari Cooper was a move for them for not just for this year, but for the long term. 24 years old. They looked at him and said they believed him to be better than whoever they were going to pick in the first round next year at wide receiver. So there goes the pick for him. In terms of they'll have to get him signed, obviously, but it's the Cowboys. They sign their guys if they want to, and that goes back a long time. They've been looking for a wide receiver since the offseason. They tried to sign Sammy Watkins, got outbid by the Chiefs. So this is a move that's been brewing for a while, and they just believe this is a guy that has been a number one type of wide receiver, and while he isn't right now, based on current performance, that he could be again.
Well, there are two sides to this equation, as there always are with trades, and I mean, you just really cannot argue that Oakland's waving the white flag, at least on the 2018 season. They will now end up, Coach, with 3 first-round picks. Are you confident in the plan here or the direction that Oakland seems to be heading long-term? Because we know in the short term they are what they are.
I definitely like their plan. I think for them to get a first-round pick for Amari Cooper at this stage of the season, is a great move. They're going to have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 seasons, to get that better. Rather, they were 6-10. Rather than sit there and stand pat and just kind of hope you get your picks as you go, they've made some aggressive moves here with both the Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper trade to better, infuse some talent into that offense.
Of course, we know, though, those picks, I mean, they matter when you get them right, or when they're productive, because just having a volume of picks doesn't necessarily guarantee long-term success.
No, but what having a volume of high picks does is enables you to control the draft, enables you to get who you want, right? So if they have 3 first-round picks next year and there's a player they want at number 1 and they don't happen to have that pick, now you can get him. So if they wanted, if they need a quarterback and a pass rusher, they'll be able to get, both of them probably in the first round the next couple of years. This is about building a team that hits the ground running when they get to Las Vegas in 2020.
They are moving.
They're obviously they're not going to come out publicly and say that while they're still trying to get people to come to the games in Oakland, but it's clear that that's what's going on, and they want to be as young and vibrant and exciting as they can possibly be when that gets going.
One piece of the puzzle that is in place, at least right now, and I say right now because anything is possible, is the quarterback, Derek Carr. He did say this via tweet today: I'm a Raider. It's not a popular thing to be a Raider right now, but I am, and I love it. I love the struggle of trying to fight back for our city when not a lot of people believe in us. People can try all they want to tear us apart, but it's not happening to the real ones. Fair enough, but we will pull out the panic button just in case we need it, and I'm not saying that we do. But I'll ask you this: panic or patience when it comes to the Oakland Raiders under John Gruden? Tim?
Look, I'm going to be patient, and I wish I wasn't saying patient right after Derek Carr's tweet, because if I'm Derek Carr, I'm not being patient. But I think, look, he signed a 10-year deal. I mean, the reality is that people don't get that type of security in the NFL. And so we're not used to seeing these long-range plans because guys don't usually get a chance to make long-range plans. It's usually you have to win now. And so I think under John Gruden, you have to realize that, we're still talking like in 2025, okay? Like that's what we're talking about here. Like, are they going to be good in 2025? I'm sorry, Coach, but you never got that luxury.
It's a 10-year contract, but I mean, you're assuming a lot of variables. He wants to stay. They want him to stay. I know he gets paid, but
listen, that'd be a lot of money to walk away from.
Well, there's a lot of money no matter how you slice it.
And so I think you have to be patient in that regard under Gruden, but that locker room because
that's a different deal.
Those guys don't have 10-year deals.
No, they do not.
So I'm patient, but in a weird way.
Okay, well, weird the operative word there. We'll just leave it there.
Throw me the button over here.
Yeah. I feel like you're not going to hit it either.
But anyways, I'm going to stay patient as well. I think, back to John Gruden's point early on was they were 6-10, all right, with these two marquee players, bottom line, and they weren't going anywhere. To sit and stand pat, I think, would be the mistake. I think right now with all those picks, and to Dan's point, you can move around that draft, you can parlay that, and just target some key guys that are going to put you over the hump. Whether that's a quarterback or whether that's another pass rusher, whether that's a shutdown corner, those are all key pieces to getting over that hump in a very, very competitive division right now that they're really not going anywhere, whether they would have traded those picks or not.
You guys are making a lot of good points. I just feel like I want to hit it.
You want to hit it?
Just women's intuition. I don't know about,
I understand Derek Carr's tweet.
And Reggie McKenzie's tweet yesterday.
If you put that in front of Carr should hit it.
Yeah, well, I'll hit it for him.
It's your perspective.
You going to hit it?
Like, you think the Raiders are going to be good this year and now you're panicking that they might not? Yeah, then yes. But who thought that? And especially as sitting there with the record they have right now. So patience is literally the only option here. It stinks.
Oh, come on. There's always an option.
If you're an Oakland Raiders fan and you're still shelling out money to park and buy tickets and
Dan's going to tell you not to.
Concessions at the games for the next year, maybe 2 years, that's a shame. But the big picture, you gave a coach a 10-year contract and obviously free reign with the roster. He's going to do what he thinks is best for the long term, and the long term is in Vegas, baby. All
right. Raiders ownership on line one for Dan. He said it. We didn't. Keep going. Listen, the Raiders' struggles date back to last season, and those points are fair. They've produced a 1-9 record since Week 14 last year. They've been outscored by 109 points during that time. Both of those, by the way, the worst marks in the NFL. And the offense has struggled to find the end zone, the fourth fewest touchdowns in the league, which will lead you, of course, to a rebuild, which is what we're seeing. So here's to wrap up the trade so far. This is from Adam Schefter. He will be busy this week and into next week. Cornerback Eli Apple to the Saints, Amari Cooper to the Cowboys, Carlos Hyde to the Jags, and still a reminder, the NFL trade deadline a week away, 4 o'clock Eastern, next Tuesday, the final time to make a deal. Well, there are plenty of questions today regarding the G-Men's decision to go for 2. After a touchdown that cut the score 20-12, they would need to stop Atlanta from scoring again. But if you assume another Giants touchdown and a 48% conversion rate on 2-point tries, the Giants had a net win probability of 58% by going for 2. If they had kicked both times, they would have had a net win probability of 46%. So the decision gave them a chance to win in regulation while giving them an ample chance to tie. That's if you look at it by the numbers. Still, lots of frustration in the Big Apple. Here's Pat Shermer.
You increase your chances by 50% if you go for it and make it there. So that's what you do. Because then if we score a touchdown, we just kick the extra point and win. And I felt good about the 2-point play, and we just didn't connect on it. And again, I think it's an aggressive approach from a head coaching perspective. I want to be aggressive for our guys.
I like the call. I love being aggressive. I don't know if I could be a coach because I'm going for it on 4th. We're going for 2. That's why I'm not a coach. So I like the call. I'm always gonna ride with them. I just wish I could have came up with it.
Obviously disappointed, but that's what happens in this league if you don't play to the caliber that you can, and we're not doing that. We're running out of time. We got to get going, and we can't settle for almost anymore.
So the Giants fall to 1-6 in what is quickly becoming a lost season as we say hello from the film room, brought to you by Horizon. Hindsight, we know 2020, Coach, even so. You can debate this one all day. What's your take on those late game decisions by the Giants?
I think the 2-point try was an outstanding call. And actually, maybe a little bit better throw. And maybe the fact that it was catchable, Odell could have caught that. Then we're not talking about that here. So it is hindsight 2020. And, 2 weeks ago, Doug Peterson makes the same thing, a division rival, and it was a genius move. So the reality is they lost a close game by 3 points, and they're 1-6. And a lot of people, and that's a big market, are frustrated. And, I think the decision-making was all sound. It's just a matter of the execution.
Would you be comfortable being that aggressive in today's game, the way it's played?
Well, I think right now, they're trying to get off the snide. I mean, they're trying to get a W. So you got to be aggressive, and you have to take those kind of chances. And the Atlanta Falcons are not real happy where they are either, and they're a talented football team, and you're in their house. So I like the aggressive mindset.
What I will say is this. It's easy to point to that, especially when it comes at the tail end of a game. It's a highlighted decision. There were plenty to go around. And I think if you're looking for scapegoats here, there's plenty of those as well.
The reality is on offense, you're going to have 10 guys do what they're supposed to do, but you need 11 to do it to be successful. And the problem for the Giants right now is sometimes the one guy not doing their job is one of their better players. They're supposed to be one of their better players. Nate Solder, when he signed with them, was the highest paid left tackle. He's got to work better with Will Hernandez here because, quite honestly, that's just not good enough when the quarterback's on the ground.